Welcome to the Dragon's Library, your source for games, movies, shows, and more. Hello everybody and welcome back to the Dragon's Library. So today I'm reviewing The Quarry, a new interactive drama horror game developed by Supermassive Games. The Quarry is a spiritual successor to Until Dawn, also by Supermassive, and one of the better choices matter adventure games of the 2010s. As with Until Dawn, you know what? Take a shot every time I compare this game to Until Dawn, and you will not be standing by the end. Several teenagers find themselves in a remote location after an intro. They begin being hunted by strange murderers, only to find out there's a larger supernatural threat overtaking them. This is essentially a standard horror movie setup, which is there to put the characters in a horror movie where the player takes control of their actions. So, with that out of the way, let's go over the setup. 7 camp counselors are preparing to leave with the camp's owner after a wild summer. Due to personal drama and hormones, one of the camp counselors, who is the most insufferable jackass, sabotages the car to try and get one last date in. The owner drives to get help, promising to come back in the morning, and the teens are left alone for the night, having been told to stay indoors. However, they are dumbass teenagers in what is essentially a horror movie, just with, extra steps, so they decide to party outside and quickly split up. After 2 of them are attacked by a strange animal and others see strange men with guns, the night of fun turns into a desperate attempt to survive. Until Dawn, take a shot. Like Until Dawn, take a shot, the player controls various characters through adventure game style puzzles. You can feel the air quotes around that, puzzles. Quick time events and making choices are also added in. The 2 games are essentially choose-your-own-adventure horror movies, like I've said before, with minimal amount of gameplay to be considered a game and not an 8-hour movie. However, like in Until Dawn, take a shot, there is one unique game mechanic, and I actually really like it. The don't move mechanic, which has been repackaged as the hold breath mechanic. This was really cool in Until Dawn. Essentially, you use the motion sensors on the PS4 controller to detect how much the controller is moving. Then, during really tense horror scenes, you have to keep it still in order for the monster to not attack you while you're hiding. Basically, you have to not make enough movement for it to catch its attention. Which was a very cool and interesting mechanic that drove home the idea that you were playing as these characters and put you in these shoes. When a monster gets really, really close to your face with this mechanic, it actually turns not moving the controller into a struggle because humans don't like that. Especially if you have a big TV, it can be a very effective way of adding tension to scenes like this. It's way more engaging than it sounds. In The Quarry, this has evolved into the hold breath mechanic. Dangerous monsters will still get really close and you'll have to hold down the X button while keeping the controller still. Then when you think you can, release the X button to bolt to safety. The mechanic is perfect for a horror game, and I would love to see it in more stuff. However, I do have some complaints with it. For example, when you first introduced to it, you're not really giving that much tutorializing to it, and it's hard to tell exactly when you should bolt. The first 2 or 3 times I tried to do it, I bolted at the wrong time. Because it's very unclear, and I probably could have figured it out on my own, but I do think there should be a bit more tutorialing in it. Seriously, there's tutorials for all this other stupid stuff, and there's not for that. I think that was a little dumb. However, in addition, if you played Until Dawn, you're probably going to feel a little, meta about this story, because it's pretty similar. So, let's move there. As for the rest of the game, it's alright. This is really the definition of a popcorn game, in my opinion. The kind of thing you just turn on and relax to like a cheesy horror movie. The graphics are okay. Pretty good at most of the times, but like in Until Dawn, take a shot, they're still hanging off the edge of the uncanny valley, and there are moments where, teeth in particular, just oh my gosh, it just looks so wrong. However, the voice performances are, for the most part, pretty good. Specifically with Brenda Song, or Anne from Amphibia, who instantly became my favorite character, and not just because I really like Amphibia. Mostly because, aside from one thing, she's probably the most likable character, and she's definitely the one that has probably the most plot armor, if you know what I mean. Because the game still has to be a game, so in order for it to not end at the 2-hour mark, there are usually 1 or 2 characters who are generally safe for most of the game. And they tend to be pretty much main characters. The story's pretty basic, but the mystery does a good job at driving interest. And though the monster design is different technically, despite, because it's a different monster. It reminds me too heavily of the Wendigos of Until Dawn. Take a shot. And still just, it looks so similar. It's just the skin tight, bony humanoids again for the monster. And it's just like, it's not really what this monster is. And I'm not going to spoil the monster because I think it's part of the surprise of the game. It's like, oh, so what monster are we facing off this time? But the design really is just meh. So, in conclusion, the Quarry is definitely a strict improvement over Until Dawn. Just all around, basically everything is improved. However, it fails to heavily evolve the concept further with the exception of the don't breathe mechanic, which was good. I liked that. However, the rest of it's just kind of basic. And you know what? That's fine. Some games can just be like this. If this wants to turn to video games version of just the cheesy horror movie, I'm actually cool with that. I think this is a niche that they can be in for a while without it getting stale. Quite frankly, I would love for them to do vampires or sea monsters next time. Get creative. Go for better monster designs. If you want to make that your niche, go for it, Supermassive Games. I think you can do it. So, you know what? I still think you can do better, but this is steps in the right direction. It's a cool idea. Let's keep, you know what? I'll see more of these movies. Or games. They're still games. They're not 8-hour movies, guys. They're just video games. So yeah. I enjoy bad horror movies all the time. And if you do too, yeah, go for it. All in all, 7 out of 10. Can't wait to see what they do next. Okay, and that is the review. Moving on from that, we have the spoiler section, and I will be spoiling parts of this game. And part of the fun of playing this thing really is going into it blind. Like, I didn't know what any of this was. I refused to look at any of the wikis for this. I went in completely blind to this. So, be warned, this part of the review may heavily affect your enjoyment of this game. I keep wanting to say movie. David Cage probably really likes these. Okay, everybody done? Everybody out of here doesn't want to be here? Okay. 3, 2, 1, it's spoiler time. Alright, so we got 7 main characters, or at least 7 main counselors. We also have 2 counselors who didn't show up. So, when we start the game, we start with Laura Kearney and Max Brinley, God, these names, who are driving to Hackett's Quarry, to the summer camp. Now, they've actually come a day early because one of them emailed the camp counselor and, said, hey, we're going to be coming up early. Just, let us know if we can't. They're going to be counseled for the summer. However, when they're driving, they nearly avoid hitting something in the middle of the road, and then they get haunted by a ghost while trying to fix their car, only to be startled by a police officer who's acting really weird and kind of creepy, but Laura manages to trick out the location of Hackett's Quarry from him. So, doing like they do, they go to the campgrounds and find that nobody's there, but there's a car there still. And they're about to head over to the motel the sheriff told them to go to, but they end up investigating around and getting attacked by something in the basement. Max gets heavily injured, and Laura tries to drag him to safety, only to get tranked by the police officer who followed them and is really pissed that he's now had to clean up this mess. So, moving on from that, we go 2 months later with 7 camp counselors. We have Abigail, Dylan, Emma, Jacob, who is just an insufferable jackass, Caitlin, Nicholas, Ryan. They are all there with the camp's owner, Crit Hatchet. They've cleaned up the camp. All the kids are gone. And they're basically just packing up and ready to go home. However, oh gods. Okay, so how to start? So this is just. Okay, so Emma and Jacob had this little affair over the summer, and Emma was like, yeah, it's just a summer fling, man. She kept saying that apparently all summer, and literally everyone else knew that she was going to go home, and they were probably never going to see each other again. But Jacob is like, you're my one true love, babe. And so he gets really pissed, and he's like, you know what, I'm going to need one more night to convince her that I'm hers. And I just kind of felt bad for Emma. Like, she's not exactly she's not the most likable person. Like, out of the group, she's like, mid to low, but at the same time, you just gotta feel bad for her because she hasn't made it any secret that she doesn't give a shit about Jacob. It was just like a summer fling thing. She's been very upfront about it, actually. But he removes the starter from, or not the starter, the rotary motor or whatever from the car, which, God, this is so dumb, which strands them there. And there's this one moment with Caitlin, and I need to say this. So Jacob is like, so how would I go about sabotaging? Well, I get the rotary motor. She's like, okay, cool. It's like, dude, don't do it. And then the car doesn't start, and she doesn't immediately call him out on it. Like, he mentions it to her, and she doesn't immediately call him out for his bullshit. I would have cornered him right there and started beating him up until he pulled out the rotary motor. But hey, you know what? You gotta have a plot happen, so I guess she had to have a brain fart there. The rest of the movie, she's very competent and probably the smartest one of the group, so, you know. All in all, we got problems going on. Basically, there's a lot of drama, spin the bottle, ooh, kiss this person. We got Abby and, not Jacob, Nicholas, who are kind of in like this, you know, the shy introvert kid kind of way they do a romantic relationship where they're both shy, but the second they get alone, they start like making out like crazy. You know, the one you get the lead up for before you kill a really slutty couple in the horror movies. So yeah. They get attacked in the woods by something. Nicholas gets bitten. And, everything just kind of goes to shit. There are rednecks in the woods with shotguns, and there are these strange monsters all over the place that they thought were bears. They are most certainly not bears. Because it turns out they are, drumroll please, werewolves. But not the werewolves you're thinking of. The shitty, weird flesh monster kind you got from, like, Cursed. Remember The Cursed? I reviewed that earlier this year. I'm not sure if anybody actually watched that review or listened to that review. Basically, I don't know what the deal is with werewolves recently, but they've gone from like the whole man-animal hybrid beast within thing to just, I'm a really bony, fleshy, like wolf-ish skin suit human. And it's just this weird thing of like, what happened with the werewolf design? Like, werewolf designs used to be fun. You know? The teeth, the claws, the hair. It's just like, what happened? Why are we going for like the skinless dog route? Not even the skinless dog route. It's like, and they look like the Wendigos. I'm not even gonna joke here. They look like the Wendigos, and it's just really bothered me the whole time I was playing. It's like, these things, they just look like the Wendigos, but they're less interesting than the Wendigos. The Wendigos had this weird spider thing to them. They were like, these things aren't as like bony as the Wendigos, but they have the same look, but they just run around the ground like dogs. And the Wendigos would climb all over the place. They had these really creepy, milky eyes. We don't really ever see these things. They're almost always coated in a little bit of blood or in shadow. And I gotta say, I said the graphics are mostly an improvement, aside from a few things. The teeth is one thing, and these werewolves are the other thing. I'm sorry. We saw the Wendigos in Until Dawn. Take a shot. They looked good. They looked like good monster design. And this is just, they hide it. And I think it's because they did not have the budget to render these properly. Because, I'm just gonna say it, they don't look that good. Now, granted, they hide it with shadow and blood splatters everywhere, and the few times they get up close, they put their real effort in there. But you can tell they did not actually make a new monster design. And I don't think they wanted to do werewolf. I feel like they wanted to just do the Wendigos again. Cause these things I feel like you could insert the Wendigos, have them act like Wendigos, and essentially have this plot work exactly the same. Like all the jump scares and everything. It just doesn't seem like they did that much different, if that makes sense. Which is a shame. I'm just saying, it is a shame. It is a very much of a shame that they could not improve this. Anyway, there's a lot of problems happening. We eventually learn the truth. So, there was this old freak show with a fortune teller that came through. She's the ghost that's been haunting the Hackett. She's also the person that appears between chapters. You can find tarot cards in the chapters and she'll tell you the future. She's clearly trying to push you into killing the Hackett family. So basically, she had a son who was basically the dog boy of the freak show. He was obviously the progenitor werewolf. You know, the whole thing where if you kill the progenitor, all the others cure back. Basically, in order to be cured, you have to kill the werewolf who turned you. Or they have to be cured because they killed the werewolf that turned them. Or so on until you get back to the progenitor. And apparently Silas, the son, was the progenitor. the two children 6 years ago, Caleb and Kaylee, they were Chris's children. They've also become werewolves and are hunting people in the forest. Because all the camp cows will be gone during this night while they were trying to kill Silas again. They tried to free him and, by starting a fire. The sideshow, the freak show, burned down as a result, and Silas bit Caleb when he was freed, who passed the curse onto his father and sister. And ever since then, the family's been trying to hunt for Silas to kill him and fix everything. However, these kids have just been thrown in the middle of the night, and now the sister is dead. Most likely. She was in my playthrough. I'm not sure if you can make different choices to keep Kaylee alive, but yeah, Kaylee's dead. Chris is killed shortly after in my playthrough, during a competition with the rednecks, including killing the grandfather, the grandmother, and one of the other brothers, leaving only the creepy cop who was covering for the family after all these years, and apparently his father also used to be the cop until he was in that fire. Apparently something bad happened. I didn't find all the clues, so I don't really know what the details are there. But essentially, he became the cop and continued to cover for the family, but, you know, he's still feeling very he's like, look, I signed up for a lot of things. We murdered this hiker couple a little bit back, and it has haunted me, and I don't want to do that anymore. You said that if I helped you, there would be no more murders. But the grandma girl's like full, she murdered my babies! You know, ignoring the fact that their baby was trying to rip them apart limb from limb. Apparently. That's just, you know, normal behavior for a child. Anyway, basically all the rednecks died in my confrontation, and the kids managed to survive by temporarily infecting themselves before curing themselves by killing Chris, which allowed them to heal one of their wounded party, and then they get turned back. So you get super healing when you do that, because you can only be killed by silver, that whole, you know, gimmick. Anyway, Laura, Ryan, and Travis try to drive to the spot where Laura and Max crashed 2 months ago, which is where Silas was. They just tried to kill him in the curse permanently. The others tried to survive the last few hours of dawn, while the others, you know, moved to kill the werewolves and hopefully save them from their fate. And then it ends. And one of the really cool things, so the authorities obviously arrive, and your player choices, based on evidence, clues, what you did, they affect not only the game's conclusion, but the public perception of it. So there's this little podcast that keeps popping up. They did this thing on like the hag at Quarry, the fortune teller who died and haunts the place. And apparently one of the survivors afterwards will send them a bunch of details and like evidence and stuff like that. Or maybe not like directly evidence, but photos of stuff that they got there. One of the main things is that, like, the, what's her name? Not Abby, not Caitlin, Emma. She's like a big social media star. She has her phone with her when she first gets attacked by werewolves. She managed to get a photo of it. So if you manage to get that quick time event and get that photo, then it'll get sent to them. And it's the whole gimmick of a conspiracy / supernatural podcast with the true believer and then the skeptic who they keep on there as sort of like a back and forth thing. A lot of podcasts do stuff like that. Anyway, the skeptic, you can try, basically if you did enough stuff and found enough evidence, you might be able to convince the skeptic that there's like, oh, maybe there's something to this. And I think if I had gone 100%, I might have gotten them like fully on board, but they were still like, okay, look, it's definitely weird and they're hiding something. I just don't know if it's supernatural. But yeah, so I do like that. The dialogue at the end, like I sat through that. It was very enjoyable. And it made me feel like a lot more of my decisions had actual impact on the plot than they probably did. Like, there are definitely some choices here that just do not matter. And then there are also choices that will just arbitrarily kill you dead. Although, gotta admit, not as many as in Until Dawn. Though there is that one that seems obvious, but like, it's not like... So basically, after you kill Chris, you briefly take control of Max near like the last chapter of the story. When he wakes up on the island in the center of that now flooded quarry, there's like a little lake that flooded the area years ago, and he wakes up there because him and Laura hid him there, so he wouldn't hurt anyone because he didn't think that dumb teenagers would go swimming across the lake to the island in the middle of the night, which is a reasonable assumption, honestly. Anyhow, he wakes up there and has to go walk back to the dock, but he finds that Laura isn't there and there's no boat. So there's a choice between staying on the island and swimming to shore. Now, there's technically nothing on the island, so I had to make a choice. And I was thinking, well, it's a horror movie. I probably shouldn't stay here alone, but there is a werewolf still on the mainland. But what are the chances it's going to be right there? So I decided, you know what? I don't want to stay here alone. Let's go back to find the others. And he immediately got murdered when he swam to shore. Looking back, I probably should have just left him there. I just didn't know how much was going to be left in the game. And there was always a chance that there was something else on the island anyway that I'd overlooked. Or maybe he was injured, or who knows. Again, it was a quick decision, but it did feel kind of arbitrary. Like, there was no way for me to stop. There wasn't enough information for me to know for sure that I'd be killing him there. It was literally just guessing. But I will say there was probably less people than... there were less choices that did stuff like that than I thought there were. And definitely less than there were in Until Dawn. Yeah. That's basically all there is for this. So yeah, that's the plot. Overall, really fun game to play. I'm not sure how much replay value it has. I still have to go back and replay some of the levels, see how deviating the choices are. I think there are decent choices that deviate the world enough. I am interested to see how it goes, what, the whole thing is there. I think it could be interesting. Definitely could be interesting. I think Supermassive is getting good at this. I think they have a little niche cut out for themselves, and I hope they make us a lot more, horror movies that you can play around with. So, yeah, that's about it. Okay, moving on from that, we have news. So, this coming week, we have 2 new reviews. On Tuesday, I will be reviewing the new Resident Evil series on Netflix. Yay! I have some interesting things to say about it. I actually just finished watching it tonight. Specifically the 15th. That's why I'm recording this. And then on Thursday, I finally will have another book review. Woohoo! We got Ordinary Monsters. That has been a joy to read. It's been a lot of fun. I have some things to say about it. I still have to finish it. I've got another 10 hours left. I'm only about halfway through, so. I got distracted recently. I just had to take a break from it, and then stuff happened this past weekend. I've been on call. It's a lot. Anyway, I will see you guys next time. Bye. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and thank you for listening to the Dragon's Library. Please subscribe to this podcast to be notified of new episodes. The Dragon's Library releases new episodes Tuesday and Friday each week, and you can follow us on Twitter at dragon_library2. If you want to suggest an episode topic, my email is in the description below. And as always, thank you so much for all your support.